Hey everybody, welcome to episode 24 of Building Gem. This is a very special episode. We have two of our engineers from the company, Oskar and Tomasz, who work on our AI projects, joining today to talk about what we're building next and how we're building it. Okay, today we're going to talk about lots of stuff, but mostly all of the AI things that we have been working on. Now, we cannot actually say the things that we're building, but maybe we can touch upon like how you guys are building things, like what tooling that you guys are using, what has been the most surprising thing. Because like let's be honest, like most of your all of both of your backgrounds is not like in machine learning or AI, right? It's like traditional software engineering, engineering management, all of those things. But then now getting into working on all of our new AI features, which is really exciting. What has been like, I want to hear from both of you, what has been like the surprising thing that it's like, oh wow, this is like a new sort of like workflow, like the CI/CD is different. Like tell me about that.
Mm,
Yeah, I need to maybe
maybe
take
I
the
will
lead on
start.
this.
I this is not the first time I'm playing with the AI. Like I did some side projects over the last 2 years, right? Since like I think ChatGPT was publicly available and the API was there, and there was hype and buzz about it. So I had like few project ideas that I tried in the past, but like never, with another person in a team, and making a real product. It was more of a like playground, right? So for me, the biggest thing is the tooling that we are building ourselves at Jam, right? Around, and trying to understand, what we can do, what we can build with the data that we collect, that the data that we have, right? And run a lot of different experiments on data that we have, and see how the results are performing really, right? Because one of the problems is like determinism with AI,
Hmm.
LLMs especially, like the out like controlled output. So forcing the LLM to always talk with you in like JSON, for example, and specific JSON schema is like one thing, and that's already solved. But you like the quality can vary, between generations, and even with the same prompt. So like iterating and like prompt engineering side is definitely something completely new for me, and we are like all learning how to do it efficiently
What
with
you're
good
saying
results.
is, we have heard this a lot from our customers too, where you can give the same prompt with the same data and the same inputs, but each iteration like can be different, so it's like non-deterministic, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And that is something that's very different from how normally, like as engineers, we operate, because most of the
Yeah,
stuff is deterministic.
especially how you evaluate those results, right? Because if you are coming from like traditional software engineering, like maybe you create like the architecture spec, something. You define some metrics, like I don't know, like I want this endpoint to perform in like that many milliseconds, right? Or this experience to take that amount of time, right? But with the AI, the one thing is like the speed of the generation, like how long the model is thinking, and how long it's generating the output. But how you actually evaluate that the results it's generating is like good enough, right?
Hmm.
With the traditional software engineering, you can have like unit tests, other types of tests, but like it's usually the humans that have to evaluate those results,
Yeah.
and it's really hard to create a metrics of, you know uh, we have a good result, especially if your product is in the development, and we don't have a like a scale of all the Jam user base, for example, that's doing generations, and we can automatically track like what's the adoption of the feature, right? Things like
Hmm.
this.
Yeah, I mean, there are a few analogies pop up. I want to hear Oscar's side too. But before we do that, it's like two things. One is, like when in normal software engineering, like designers design something on Figma, they give you all the mocks. So like the thing that it should look like is already done, and then you have to like build it. Of course there could be some tweaks, but you know what you're looking for. Like it's sort of like predetermined, right? The other thing that reminds me of is it's like but it's like that, but in the opposite way, where the design sort of comes later because you don't
Hmm.
know how good things are. Or it's like, if you're brewing like beer or you're making whiskey, where with each batch you're like tasting it, and like what good like looks like, but you can't exactly put your finger on it. Like does that sound like similar to that?
Yeah, yeah, that's really like iterative process. Like you won't make your like the best brew or the best like sourdough starter, right? And like the
Yeah, yeah,
best
yeah.
bread the first time you're making it. It's you have to try and like bake many or latte art and like all those craftsmanship things, right?
Totally.
Yeah, there is so many
uh
harms which you have to like think about, and also evaluation, right? The one day you can get a good result and be in a good mood and actually accept it, but the other day you're in a worse mood maybe, and you get worse results from the like LLM, and you're not happy about it, or maybe it's too slow for you. Um, so yeah, there is like multiple factors, and I like to think about it like a weather forecast too. So if you have a long chain of words, like if you take everything and try to evaluate it, um, then you might get worse results, right? So if you, for instance, want to forecast weather for 2 weeks from now and do it for every single day, with like very good accuracy is going to be very difficult. But if you just want to predict like the next word or maybe few words, it's going to be better. It will
hmm.
give you better results.
So Oscar, like with all of these like different like factors, and the fact that both of you are working on this, how do you guys decide like when you do like prompt engineering and like the output comes up, how do you guys decide, okay, like this is good enough or like this could be better? Like how do you, is there like a decision process there, or is it just like a gut feel? Like how do you go about that?
I think it's a mixture, right? So we got a recommendation from Hui, our friend at Jam, um, of a tool which is called Promptful. It's a tool where you can just specify a bunch of prompts, bunch of LLM engines, models, and try things out locally, um, and then share between like team members. So we specified a bunch of these like experiments, and we try to figure it out which one gives the best results. But if you
Hmm.
think about it, it's like a big population of data which you can put into it, and it's still very difficult to like get the right result. I think until we will give it to the other people and try it in the product, we won't be like even 90 or 80% certain that it's going to be valuable.
So the way you're determining if it's actually good or not, like there's this like first layer of taste making by you two, and then you're also thinking about, okay, it needs to be seen by a broader population before we feel more confident about like how good this thing is. Like I think the way, it's just me thinking about it, like the way probably we're gonna do it is like dog food the hell out of it. So internally, we're gonna use it a lot, until it becomes just right, and then slowly roll it out to more and more customers, and like get that confidence through that. So, listeners, like people who are listening to this, uh, if you're using Jam or you will be using Jam, by the time you see those features, it'll be refined. It'll be perfected. Maybe perfected is a strong word, but you will receive a very refined version of our product.
Oh, definitely. We will do our best to make it like so valuable for you that you won't be able to divorce from it.
And have you? So you talked about, was it it's called Prompt Tool? That's the tool that you're using.
Prompt full, like full bar.
Prompt Tool. Okay. What other tools are you using in the development efforts right now for AI stuff?
I think that's a main one, like because it's separate from the product, right? It's just we are iterating on data we already have. and it's mainly to run like different prompts and prompt engineering and see how different models are performing with all the parameters that we can tweak. One nice tool or like part of the prompt we tried um, is like automatic evaluation. So basically feeding the result back to the LLM and asking how good it's generated the output, right? Because right now we are, for example, working with historic jams that we created. So we know the jam that someone created, right? We know all like what their description was, right? So if we are generating, anything about this jam, like we can, hide this like part of the information from the LLM, ask it to generate something, and ask it again, like, do you think the thing that you generated is the same as like human generated, right?
Mm.
Uh, so
Have
so
you seen it?
and this
Like,
is
does it get better when you do that? Like, how does it change the output after that?
it's not really like it's not like I think it's called reinforcement learning, right? So it's not like feeding back, like our learning, like our evaluation is not used to tweak the LLM like in an automatic way. It's just for us that if we evaluate like 100 jams, for example, we have this clear indicator, so we can skim through the results and see, okay, we have like 20%, right, or 80% success with this prompt, and then we can analyze each individual prompt and each individual result independently and see, okay, here's a little bit confusion from LM, and this is like perfect result. Here we are feeding it like too much data, so it got confused what's happening,
Mm.
and what to generate.
I see. I see. That's pretty cool. Have you found any interesting thing? And I'll give you an example of this. This is what I'm looking for. So I remember we did another episode with Hui, and we're talking about some of our AI experiments that we're running. And one of the things that he said was, "Oh, in the prompt, if you say this is like $1 million stake problem, like this is high stakes. If you don't answer this right, you're gonna lose $1 million. So give very accurate answers. This is what your mission is." Like, have you found anything like interesting like that tweaking the prompt gave you like radically better results? Oscar is nodding. What did you find?
Uh, yeah, I think mm, one interesting fact was like providing the example. So in general, it gives you better results when you uh, provide something like, oh, here is the set of data which you can skim through, but here is an example how users are usually do it, and then it kind of puts in a better words.
Hmm.
Yeah, the other part is like the reasoning, right? The chain of thought. Like if you find something interesting, maybe you can iterate on it. That's the approach we would like to try in the future too.
Mhm.
Um, because it's something like you tried now, just feed bunch of data and try to get something out of it. But maybe if we could like ask for details, maybe you can find some details in this part of information and maybe in this part of information, and then compose it in a single prompt, then maybe we could get better results. That's something um, what I believe the newest like GPT engine does behind the scenes.
Mm, mm. Cool.
Yeah, so
Tomasz.
like
Yeah.
asking like, you know uh, like you ask first the usual stuff, like to generate the output that you want, but at the end you may ask like, how how did you figure this out, and what is your thinking, right? This is like the simplest option. So it can, as you're doing prompt engineering, try to understand better, like what the model is thinking and how it's reasoning about your data, about your context.
Man, isn't that
uh,
crazy? That's fucking incredible, right? It's like, it, I know people probably have already talked about this a lot, but still, to me, it is kind of crazy how you can then ask it to explain their thought process or the reasoning process, and then you can then go back to it to figure out how to like create a better prompt from it. That
Yeah,
is insane, right? Like we take this for granted, but it's pretty crazy.
yeah, especially that like LLMs are, autocomplete on steroids, right?
Yeah.
And it has like some, some chain of thoughts, and it can reason about stuff and figure out what's going on, right? Even
Mhm.
though we are like far, right, it's debatable, right? But like far from AGI, so it's not like a thinking being, but it pretends really good to be one.
Yeah, yeah, that is crazy. That is crazy.
That's true. It's like
Um,
narrowing down with this chain of thought. It's like narrowing down to what you would like to achieve, right? So it builds the context for itself.
I know we can't really like talk about exactly what we are building and which we're going to ship, um, but I'm not going to shy away from asking this question: like, when are we going to ship something for our customers?
When it will be ready. I don't like it's like we are at the experimentation phase. We spent like last few weeks basically not thinking about the individual project we want to build, and how to enhance Jam's UI or functionality, and we were just thinking, okay, this is the data we have, and what what LLMs can reason about, and how like we were focused on quality, so we don't care about how expensive each query will be, how long it will take, uh, but it gave us the information of and like confidence. Okay, this is a feature we can build, and this is
Mm,
probably outside our reach for now, because I don't know, like there are time constraints and resources constraints in general. Um, so right now, only this week we are at the hackathon mode
mhm,
phase basically. So we picked up one project idea, and we want to embed that into the jam as soon as possible, to validate that the whole flow will be fast enough. We will have good enough results,
mhm,
because it's not a traditional software engineering. You cannot like build the design prototype, right? You can think about UX, maybe. Okay, here the LLM will be thinking. Here's the output, and how you interact with it, but like the perceived speed of it and how good the results are is something that you have to try and on a living organism, I think.
Mhm.
mm.
Mm.
Gotta try out the living organism. I like that. Any like particular thoughts or like ideas that you want to share, like before saying goodbye to our audience for now?
Keep hacking. I mean, it's like there is a lot of stuff which we could come out with, and uh, there is so many different language models out there, and they provide different values. So it doesn't have to be even a single model which we use. Maybe in the future we'll just combine a few of them and
Mm.
get out something interesting and quite fast.
Yeah, and with, for example, with tools like replicate, like fine-tuning models, for example, like stable diffusion, and in general image generation models, like fine-tuning them is really accessible these days. So there's like so many cool things that can be built. We have like Jam AI nights, so people have to build a products that we can showcase.
Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining today, for chatting about what we're building. Hopefully, by the next time you guys are back on the pod, we've actually shipped this and we can openly talk about and like share screens about what we're building. Thanks
Fingers
again.
crossed. Thanks, Irtefa. Thank you.
What do you mean fingers crossed? It's shipping.
Yeah, for sure. It only depends when we will have a next appearance on the podcast.